Hey, the Dolphins are on Monday Night Football this week. That means the nation gets to see the greatest show on surf, and it's not too early to put the Dolphins in the driver's seat by liking this video. So go ahead and do that. Now we got a great preview for you and some injury news on this edition of Dolphins Today. Lots to get to on this edition of Dolphins Today. I'm your host, Jake Riepma. I'll be taking you through it. We'll start with the latest injury report. Mike McDaniel addressed the media today with several important updates. And then how about a little preview? Dolphins playing some of their best football, 9-3. They got some help on Monday Night Football from Cincinnati, knocking off Jacksonville. So if the season ended right now, Miami Dolphins would be your number one seed in the AFC. But of course, we're not going to get too far ahead of ourselves with that. But we are going to have a deep dive in the Week 14 matchup against the Titans, of course, with our keys to victory as well. So let's dive in and begin with the injury news. As we know, multiple significant injuries for both of these teams. And I really do believe it's going to come down largely to who's healthy and who's not for both the Dolphins and the Titans. We'll start with our very own, the Aqua and Orange, with the Miami Dolphins because, of course, against the Washington Commanders in Week 13, Jerome Baker left that game. So we'll have an update with him, Terron Armstead, Rob Hunt, both on the offensive line, and then defensively, Javon Holland, who missed the game against the Commanders, the latest on the safety, who's having a hell of a year, I might add. But start with Jerome Baker, and as we've been telling you all week, good news in the sense long-term. He's not going to need surgery, and he will not be placed on IR. That was kind of the thought after the medical staff was able to have more of an analysis on what went wrong with the injury, and good news from Joe Schad confirming it all today that Jerome Baker is week to week, won't need surgery. So again, if you think of long-term, I think that's good news. Obviously, you don't want to have injury news in the first place, but week to week, better than IR or anything season ending. So good news there, and we know that Jerome Baker's been a tremendous player for the Dolphins on defense all season long. Also a tremendous player on the offensive line, Terron Armstead. And yes, he's been a little bit more banged up than Dolphins fans would have hoped. Started the season on IR. It's kind of been a little bit of a roller coaster for him with lots of injuries. But what I thought was interesting was he was battling with the ankle injury against the Commanders. Mike McDaniel kind of alluded to the fact that if it would have been a closer game, Armstead could have gone back in. So that tells me that he's trending to be able to play against the Titans on Monday Night Football. And again, Monday night gives you one more day of rest and recovery for Armstead as the kind of dog days of the season start to take over and it really becomes a war of attrition. But this from Joe Schad, Terron Armstead will try to go, but if you can't, there are other players the team has confidence in at that position. We've talked about that all year long. The Dolphins have started a number of different combinations on the offensive line, and they've really overachieved when you consider the fact that the Dolphins' offensive line was a perceived weakness entering the season, and it's kind of turned into a strength based on several different important metrics. So the hope is Terron Armstead can play on Monday Night Football. More offensive line injury news. Rob Hunt, he's had that nagging hamstring injury since early in November. He's been able to fight through it, but those hamstring injuries, you always want to be cautious with them, and that's exactly what the Dolphins have done. He's only missed 2 games in total, the game against the Raiders and the game in Germany against Kansas City. And I think it kind of represents what this offensive line has been all season long. They've been beat up, but they've battled and still been able to put their best foot forward. Here's what Mike McDaniel had to say about Rob Hunt. They've been extremely proactively conservative. That's a lot to digest. Proactively conservative with him, so he didn't expect a setback, referring to the game against the Commanders, but unfortunately that's exactly what happened. McDaniel went on to say we'll go back to our conservative nature with Rob Hunt. So it hasn't been pretty. Sometimes they've been battled and bruised, but this Dolphins offensive line, as I mentioned, has still really overachieved this entire season. So I think they deserve some love. Do so now in the comments. Spam the OL down below and give some shout-outs to your favorite Dolphins offensive linemen. We've got more injury news to get to as part of today's show, but first, I got to give a huge shout out to today's presenting sponsor. You know by now the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports is a Prize Picks. And I know the fantasy football playoffs might be starting this week, but hey, I'll be honest with you. You probably didn't make the playoffs, so let's play daily fantasy football instead. It's the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's also the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform. Tons of different options. You can even cross with some NBA action as well as some NFL. And it's real simple, too. It's not some complicated algorithm. You need an Excel spreadsheet to figure it out. No, it's more or less on a player's projected stat line. And you know what? I enjoy doing it with Dolphins games all the time, but I'll even branch out a little bit like I'm doing with these picks. We've got Buffalo and Kansas City, two teams we actually love to root against. And the Dolphins are very, very close to clinching that AFC East. Just need some things to go right. So here's what I'm working with in this game. Patrick Mahomes, you know what? They lost on Sunday Night Football against the Green Bay Packers, so I think he's got a bounce-back game in him. I'm going to go ahead and pick more on the projected passing yards of 266.5. Josh Allen, say what you will about him. The guy's still got a mega arm, even though he turns the ball over all the time. I'll still pick more, 261.5 yards passing, and show some love to the field goal kicker, Tyler Bass. How about more than 1.5 field goals made? And that's how it works. That's where the fun begins. PrizePicks.com/CLNS, because we love you and we care about you. We got a $100 deposit match waiting for you, and we'll make it easy on you by putting that link in the description of today's video. But I'll tell it to you one more time, PrizePicks.com/CLNS. All right, more injury news, turning back to the defensive side of the ball. Javon Holland, you don't know who that is? Well, look up the highlights from the Black Friday game. He's the one that took it to the distance. 99-yard interception return on the final play of that first half, but he's been tremendous for the Dolphins all season long. Did have to miss Sunday's game against the Commanders, and the update from McDaniel is as follows. Sitting out Sunday helped Javon Holland, but the team will continue to be conservative. We've heard that word a couple of times now, conservative in nature regarding Javon Holland. Terron Armstead, as we mentioned, will get an opportunity to show he can go on Monday night after his ankle injury, and that's straight from the boss man's mouth, Mike McDaniel. So, in summary, if you didn't listen to anything else, here's the Spark Notes version. Dolphins are banged up, but so are the Tennesse Titans coming off that loss to the Indianapolis Colts. And there's some names on there that you're probably going to recognize, right? Derrick Henry, Jeffrey Simmons, the former All-Pro defensive tackle, Christian Fulton, and the punter, Ryan Stonehouse. More on him in a moment, but we start at the very top with Derrick Henry. Ian Riepma, NFL insider, saying Mike Vrabel clarifies that running back Derrick Henry not in concussion protocol, so that puts him back on track to play this week. Good, great, grand, wonderful. No, I think if you're a football fan, you want to see this guy in action. Derrick Henry, one of the league's best, has been for several years now, and the stats do not lie. In 12 games, 841 yards rushing, just a few more than Raheem Mostert. They're 2 and 3 in the NFL, the 8 touchdowns and 4.3 yards per carry. So, if he plays, which we plan on, Dolphins defense have a tough task to try to contain him. Now, I pulled this number out, 62 yards, a little bit conservative, but hey, I think the Dolphins defense is up to the task. Can the Dolphins hold Derrick Henry under or less than 62 yards? Type Y for yes if you believe in this Dolphins defense, or hey, Derrick Henry is, on pace to be a Pro Bowler again and has a decorated career for a reason. So I certainly understand if you want to type that N for no. But either way, let's have some fun in the comments. Let me know. Now, continuing on, more injury news for the Tennesse Titans as far as the defensive line is concerned. And for the Tennesse Titans, this is an important part of their defense. And I don't want to say their defense is elite by any means, but Jeffrey Simmons certainly helps them up front. And he's been really good for several years now. Look at the stats there from 2021 all the way through the current year in 2023. Jeffrey Simmons has been a model of consistency, 54 tackles in 2021 as well as 2022, and on pace to eclipse that here in 2023. He gets after the quarterback, the proven sacks numbers there as well, and he can be a menace in the pass game as well from the D-tackle position. So he was hurt against the Colts, And the latest update on him is he is hoping to play against the Dolphins. So we'll keep you posted on that one as well. Now, as for Christian Fulton, the defensive back for the Tennesse Titans, I think Mike Vrabel put it best when he said the hamstring got him. That's what happened. So Fulton will have an MRI today to determine what his status is. And obviously, as we progress a little bit closer to the Titans versus Dolphins game on Monday Night Football, we will have an update for you. Now, as for the punter, Mr. Stonehouse, sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words. Now, I'm not laughing by any means because punters are people too. Let's remember that. But this happened in the Indianapolis Colts game. The Titans had 2 punts blocked. Not great. One of them was returned all the way for a touchdown. But you see why Stonehouse is in a world of hurt after this collision. And Ryan Stonehouse is confirmed to need season-ending surgery. So again, not great. But after taking a look at that photo, you see exactly when, how, and why he's going to need season-ending surgery. But as I mentioned, punters are people too. Special teams, very important part of the game. It's a third of the game. So that actually is a big loss for the Tennesse Titans because he's been one of the best punters in the NFL. And sometimes when it rains, it pours for the Titans, 4-8 on the season, and also dealing with some injuries. Now that we've gotten the injury notice out of the way, let's jump into the actual matchup. The Titans 4-8 on the season. Not a great scoring offense. 25th in the league, been a little bit better on defense. And as for your Dolphins, they're very close to reclaiming that number one offense in terms of points per game. They're at 32, right on the dot. Cowboys have 32 and a fraction of points, so they technically hold the number one spot. But scoring defense getting better and better every week. It's been kind of fun to watch them climb from very close to the bottom of the NFL, now all the way up to 21st in scoring defense. So, with that said, let's get into our keys to victory. And based on what we saw on Sunday against the Commanders, I would love to see this offense continue to hum. We saw a little glimpse of what this offense is capable of and kind of gave us that glimpse into the offensive prowess that they displayed in the early portion of the season with that display against the Commanders. And I'd love to see it continue on, specifically the connection of Tua Tagovailoa to Tyreek Hill, because make no mistake about it, that's one of the best, if not the best quarterback to wide receiver connection in the NFL right now. Check out what Mike McDaniel had to say about it. He said the connection between Tua and Tyreek in terms of two players playing together is about as good as I've ever been around, and that is high praise from a guy, Mike McDaniel, who made his mark in this league as an offensive-minded coach. Obviously, he's been on some brilliant staffs and been around some really talented players, so that is extremely high praise. And as far as Pro Football Focus is concerned, you guys know what my deal with Pro Football Focus is. I think it's a good measuring stick at times, not the end-all, be-all by any means, but certainly a benchmark and a reference point. Tyreek Hill, well, he's your number one rated wide receiver on Pro Football Focus. Connor Williams, he's your number one rated center. Tua is your number third rated quarterback. The same can be said about Mostert at the running back position. And, oh, yeah, Rob Hunt having a great year as well, the fifth-ranked guard. So, several different important positions that have performed extremely well by several different metrics, and that has me feeling very confident in this Dolphins offense. But I want to know how you feel. Let me know in the comments. Scale it for me, your confidence level in this Dolphins offense moving forward, 1 through 10. Now, let's flip over to the defensive side, because this defense, I tell you what, just been going up, up, up in terms of how they've been playing as a unit. It was a little rocky at the beginning of the season, I won't lie to you. But lately, my goodness, this defense has been putting on a clinic in several different areas. And our friends at Pro Football Focus had this little nugget that they shared on the internet, on X. Since Week 9, the Miami Dolphins defense has allowed just 4 yards per play. Let me say that again. Since Week 9, the Miami Dolphins defense has allowed just 4 yards per play, and that is first in the NFL, my friends. So, that said, I have high expectations for this Dolphins defense to suffocate a Titans offense that really is not going to say one-dimensional because it's the NFL, but obviously leans a little bit more heavy to the running game than the passing game. Now, Dolphins are back at Hard Rock Stadium, which is a welcome sight. for several different reasons because, I mean, obviously the weather's great, although the weather in Nashville is fine, but you'd much prefer to play this game in Florida based on how well the Dolphins have played at home this year and dating back really all of Tua's career. And I looked this up this morning. These numbers were fascinating. I knew they were 15-2 in their last 17 games. I didn't even realize Tua's 18-4 in his career at Hard Rock Stadium. So tough to beat the Aqua and Orange at home, and there's lots of different reasons for it, but check out the splits between home and away for Tua. Now, it's important to note, 7 games this season played on the road, just 5 at home. The Dolphins will play 4 of their final 5 games at home, which, again, is great news. But look at the touchdown to interception ratio. Several different numbers here jump out of the screen at you about the home and road splits, but 14 touchdowns compared to just 4 interceptions at home compared to the 10 and 5 on the road. So some home cooking in Miami is certainly what the doctor ordered and what the Dolphins deserve after a couple of consecutive road games, and it will be important to protect home field advantage. Also, we wouldn't get through a show. We wouldn't get through a show. My man Coop's giving me the fist bump, and it's in all caps because, yes, I am screaming at you. Win the turnover battle, baby. Say it with me. Win the turnover battle. And by golly, they finally did it against the Commanders. First time they won the turnover battle since week 3. And obviously, as football guys, Coop and myself, you gotta win the turnover battle. And I don't know how the Dolphins won as many games as they did without winning the turnover battle. But both these teams struggle in that area. In fact, for the entire season, they're both right at -4. So they've turned the ball over 4 times. Then they've actually four more times than they've forced turnovers. So that'll be paramount as it is in every single game. You got to protect that football, and you got to force some turnovers and be opportunistic on the defensive side. And you know who was opportunistic against the Commanders? Well, that was Andrew Van Ginkel, who had the pick 6 and played a whale of a game. He was tremendous, and I wanted to find a way to show him some love and give him some flowers. Joe Shad did exactly that with this tweet that I think captures it perfectly. Andrew Van Ginkel of the Miami Dolphins is the number 6 ranked pass rusher in the NFL via Pro Football Focus. AVG is ranked behind Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, Nick Bosa, Aiden Hutchinson, and Trey Hendrickson, and AVG is ranked just ahead of TJ Watt and Max Crosby. Crazy names on that list when you consider how far AVG has come. He's among the elite because he's been playing at an elite level this year. So that's going to do it for me. I hope you enjoyed the deep dive into the preview as well as the injury updates. That's what we're here for. So if you made it to the end of the video and you love the Fins, show us some love by liking this video. We'll have more leading up to Dolphins and Titans all week. We'll have our live show on Wednesday, so make sure you join us for that. And as always, shout out to my main man, Coop, on the 1s and 2s. Always a pleasure to work with him, and always a pleasure to be on the air with you on Dolphins Today. We appreciate all you do for the program, and we'll see you next time on Dolphins Today.